Welcome to a special Mother's Day edition of the Uplevel Dairy Podcast, brought to you in partnership with AHV. This week, we're honoring the powerhouse women who raise kids, run farms, and rally for the dairy industry. Today, you will hear from three inspiring dairy farm moms, Nicole Barlass, Katy Grinstead, and Katy Katzman, as they open up about their dairy journey, their passion for agriculture advocacy, and what it really looks like to juggle business, community, family, and most of all, motherhood. This episode is brought to you by AHV. AHV Animal Health Visions helps empower their customers as entrepreneurs that embrace innovations in animal health. As a knowledge center, they are a leader in the field of quorum sensing innovations and advisory services for optimal animal health, with programs that focus on improving key areas such as udder health, uterine health, reproduction, and more. AHV celebrates the health and success of the dairy cow and is also proud to honor and celebrate dairy farm moms who are making a difference today and every day. Well, welcome to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast, and this is a special podcast that I'm producing in partnership with AHV, and the purpose and intention here is to honor dairy farm moms that are making a difference. And it's my greatest honor and privilege to get a chance to sit in the room today with three women who I have incredible respect and admiration for as leaders in the industry, as leaders in their dairy farming businesses, and they all happen to be incredible moms that are doing great things, not only on their farms and in their families, but as you'll hear soon today as well, are incredible influencers in their communities in ways that tie together and ways that also highlight their individual contributions. And so with that, I welcome my three guests today, three dairy farm moms who are doing it every day and making a difference along the way. Nicole Barlass, Katy Grinstead, and Katy Katzman. Welcome to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast.
Thank you, Peggy.
So I want to take a moment to have you each introduce yourselves. But one of the really beautiful things about the dairy industry is there are just these little threads that tie us all together. And those threads led us to how we all ended up in this room today, which is actually in Katy's beautiful home here in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. And I'm going to start with you, Nicole. So Nicole, you and I go way back to being state FFA officers together a couple years ago. I think, did we have our 25th anniversary?
Yeah, coming out here, right?
It'll be Wisconsin state officers. But Nicole, I have just had this privilege of growing up alongside you, but watching you step into leadership within the industry and in the dairy community, becoming a mom, and now being a part of your family farming business. So we'll start with you, Nicole. Go ahead and give a little introduction to yourself, who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your family farm.
Sure. Well, thanks, Peggy. Thank you for having us and Katy in your home. So my name is Nicole Barlass. I am currently living in Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin. That's where I was born and raised. And several years ago, I had the opportunity to come back home to my family's dairy farm. So I work hand in hand with my mom, dad, brother, and his family. I'm married to my husband, Aaron, for about 11 years. And we have two wonderful children, Lily, who is going to be 12 in a couple of days, and Brody, who is 9. So like everybody, we stay extremely busy on the farm, and I'm sure we'll get more into that later.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. And Katy Grinstead. So again, the ties that bring us all together. Katy, you first became a woman that I admired when I was a little girl in the Wisconsin Junior Holstein Association, and you were named Outstanding Holstein Girl. Katy Grinstead, take a moment to introduce us to you and your family farm.
Well, I am a partner at our family farm, Verclair Farms. It's my mom and dad who are slowly trying to retire. Myself and my husband, Grant, my brother, JR, and his wife, Samantha, and their family. We have 3 children. I have a freshman in college, which is a little hard to say sometimes. I have a 12-year-old, or excuse me, I have a 16-year-old that just started driving, and then a 12-year-old.
I help do a lot of things at the farm, but always knew I wanted to come back to the farm. That was where my passion lied.
Excellent. And we'll get more into that story and what brought you back shortly. And Katy Katzman. So, Katy, again, another woman that I've had the privilege to just get to watch. And one of our common ties is that you were the editor for Ag Review, which was the premier Wisconsin agriculture and farm newspaper for the longest time. One of the famous, what I would call the Dewey sisters, the famous Dewey sisters that just represented this like level of class and excellence in everything that you did. You and your sisters, Susie and Christina. Katy, tell us a little bit about you and your family and your farm.
Oh, Peggy, thanks so much. I'm flattered. So I operate Katzman Farms, which is a multi-site dairy and beef operation based in Southeast Wisconsin with my husband, Wes, and our adult sons, Jake, who is 23, and Aaron, who's 20, and our team of valued employees. We're milking about 3,000 cows, crop close to 4,000 acres, and finish several thousand fat cattle a year. And we're also partners in a heifer ranch in Southwest Kansas as well.
Oh my goodness. So three incredible women, each with their hands in different aspects of the industry and their family farms. And so I'm curious for the three of you, and I'll start with you, Nicole, and go down the line here. But tell me a little bit about the path that brought you to the family farm, because it was not a direct path.
No, definitely not a direct path for me. I like to joke with everybody all the time that as an overworked high schooler, when I could apply for college and leave the farm, I was very excited to do so. But it was shortly after I got to UW-Madison, Peggy, that I realized how much I missed, as much as I love the city, right? How much I missed my agricultural upbringing. So I changed my major. I ended up majoring in agricultural education. And after school, I had the fortunate opportunity to serve Wisconsin as our Allison Dairyland for a year and travel all over promoting agriculture. But then I landed back in South Central Wisconsin, so about 2 hours away from my family's farm, teaching high school agriculture and advising an FFA chapter. And truly, I love, and I think you'll hear this later, I love education, right? Agricultural education. And that's the commonality amongst the three of us. But after that, I had some other opportunities to work for a group trying to develop an ag education center. And then my husband and I had the chance to come back to Sheboygan Falls to start growing and being a part of our home farm. So yes, it wasn't a direct path. And there was a point in time when I thought I was going to end up in the community that I taught ag in. So it's crazy how life really takes its turns. But we're so excited to be back home raising our kids on the farm.
Yeah. And Nicole, there's another big part of your path. And that was working in the kind of the corporate side of dairy for Dairy Business Association. That was a pretty big stretch of your career as well. And one, I think at times you were double dutying, doing both.
Oh, that's a good point, Peggy. Yeah, for several years, I traveled around the state and the Midwest as director of membership for DBA and Edge, and worked with corporate members on sponsorships. And I really loved that. But that was the thing about living closer to home, is it got to a point where I started giving more and more of my time to our farm and our trucking business. And I always joke, I got to a point where I had part-time jobs, right? That I always said had part-time paychecks, but full-time work. So yes, that was a huge part of my path as well.
Yeah, just a constant dedication, and but really too a commitment to coming back to the farm. And did you know you always wanted to raise your kids there?
I did, yeah. I think deep down, like I said, you really get to a point in life where you see the value in your upbringing, and that's what I really longed for my family.
Yeah. And so, okay, Katy Grinstead, let's hear a little bit about your story and your path that led you back here to Verclair.
We were kind of at a crossroads when I was about 16 years old. And so I was 16. My sister was 20 months younger than I am. And then I have another sister who's 7 years, and my brother's 9 years younger. So they were pretty little at the time. But my mom and dad took us to Pizzaville for brunch after church one day and kind of posed the question to us that we were either going to expand the dairy, we were milking 50 cows at the time, or we were going to get out because my dad's knees were getting bad. He saw that we were doing a lot of merchandising of animals all over the country, all over the world, and he saw that they were starting to, learn and get our genetics, and just felt like maybe that market was not going to be around as long as we wanted it to be. So my sister and I looked at him and said, if you get out, we'll never talk to you again. And I think at that point on, that was my getting in. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We had to go for further education. Didn't have to be college, but it had to be something. And then the rule that my parents had for us is that we had to work off the farm before we came back home. Mm. So I went to school in Madison. I did some awesome internships. I met so many awesome people, just learned a lot, got involved. But then I went and worked for VitaPlus for 5 years as a calf specialist. And it was some of the best 5 years of my life at that time. I mean, I met so many wonderful people. So after working at VitaPlus for 5 years, we decided that we needed to bring our calves home from where they were being raised. And we were like, well, we're either going to hire a calf manager, or maybe this is your, time if that's what I wanted to do. Only problem was about 6 months pregnant when I made the decision and started coming home. So not maybe the most ideal timing, but it really worked out well for me because I was able to start our calf operation, build it into something I'm very proud of, and also gain the respect of our employees. It's worked.
Yeah. So you also spent that time working in industry, and you talked about the incredible people you met at VitaPlus. I think there's one named Grant that is pretty special, huh?
Yes, my husband and I met at VitaPlus. He was on the swine side of the business, and I was on the dairy side of the business. And now he also has come home to my family's farm, and has brought a lot of knowledge from the swine industry to the dairy industry or our farm. And it's really been, invaluable when we, talk about some of the technologies that he's brought.
What really sticks out to me about the story that you shared, and what I didn't know about your story, was, as you said, when you were 16, you really faced this defining moment with your family of whether or not this farm was going to keep going. And so when you were 16, you guys were milking 50 cows. And today, wow.
A few more.
Yeah. This business has grown and scaled.
I don't think I mentioned that at the start. We milked 2,400 cows. And then last October, we actually bought a second farm in Northern Illinois. So it's about a 2-hour drive. It's been a really rewarding experience, and something that, our group has got together as a team and really made some awesome changes. And it's cool to see the cows respond and see how well they're doing.
So you always knew you wanted to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Katy Katzman.
Well, after I graduated, like you said earlier, I was the editor of Ag Review newspaper. And then in 2004, with a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, I decided, it's probably time. I had been commuting from Whitewater, which is an hour one way to Madison. I thought, it's probably time. So I gave notice, but I stuck around for a while until they could find a replacement for me. During that time, I found out I was pregnant with my third child. So when I eventually left, I had a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a third on the way. And I went back to my husband's family farm, unlike Nicole and Katy. And so that was a little different for me, going back to someone else's farm and trying to find my place, especially with 3 kids under the age of 3, and trying to manage all of that.
You're making me have a hot place. You're just thinking about it.
Travis, you're not editing that. That stays.
Honestly, I don't even remember how I survived some of those early days, but it is with the support of family. Mm-hmm. My in-laws always were willing to take the kids, and my parents were, which allowed me then to be a part of the team and then be active in the community as a dairy volunteer.
Okay, so you just said some pretty powerful things. Now, I want to revert back to number 1. You were raising 3 kids under the age of 3 on the farm, and amid a transition of coming back and leaving corporate. were there ever days when you're like, man, it was a lot easier to just drive into Madison? You had an hour to yourself one way. And
that's very true, Peggy. I used to have that hour to decompress before I had to go home and face everyone and everything. And then I lost that. My commute was just down the road and I lost that time. I used to joke when the kids were little, my husband would be out there in the chopper with his radio and his AC and someone bringing him lunch. And I had these 3 little kids. I'm like, gosh, wouldn't it be a lot easier just to switch spots?
You're like what I would give for a
just
day by
drive in
myself.
a straight row. I could maybe do that. Probably not.
So you mentioned that, but something else that I want to bring up that you just alluded to too is volunteering. So again, a commonality between the 3 of you is one of the reasons that I admire you so much and that others do too is because you 3 are each these tireless advocates for things that you believe in so strongly in promoting agriculture and dairy. And so I'll let the 3 of you share what some of those activities are. But I also want to then get into how you literally do it all. And so Katy Katzman, I'm going to start with you here, pick up where we left off.
So I grew up in a family that was very passionate about sharing our dairy story and giving back. And so that was instilled in me from a young age. When I moved to Walworth County as an outsider, right, I immediately was trying to find ways to become involved, and it got involved in the Walworth County Dairy Promotion Committee. And that's a committee now that I've chaired for almost 25 years.
It's a life sentence.
But I enjoy doing it. I enjoy doing it, the people we work with. And then I'm also very involved in the Association of Women in Agriculture at UW-Madison. That's where I met Katy. We lived together in college. And I'm just back involved in the board this time around. It's probably been 15 years since I served on that board, but I'll be serving as president here coming up. And then where I got to meet Nicole was my work with the Wisconsin State Fair Dairy Promotion Board. For 15 years, I worked as the executive director of that dairy board. And like when I gave my notice at Ag Review, I cried. And when I left the board, I cried because those board members to this day are still some of my closest friends.
Katy's passion and energy is really what made all of those things come to life. So we continue. I'm the current president of the board right now. And, when we're in the industry, we hear about all the negativity and people having so many negative opinions about agriculture. What I loved about presenting at the state fair is people just literally don't know. And in most cases, the majority of people just have great questions to get answered. So we are just there giving them information about all the things that we do back home on our family farms. And it really is a great experience. So we're excited this year to add a new exhibit to the Cream Puff building. Again, trying to just engage more fair goers in the dairy industry.
Okay, speaking of fairs, perfect segue. Katy, Grinstead.
I actually just retired from president of the fair board for Fond du Lac County. I'm still on the board, but I have taken my passion for the fair. My grandparents were on the fair board. My mom was on the fair board. Katy's on the fair board. Someday Claire said she's going to be on the fair board. So my kids grew up, like thinking they owned the fair. I had to finally at one point say, can we just give Griffin a walkie-talkie so we know where he is? They just treated the fair like it was their home. And that's why I did what I did for the fair board. Our fair is a free fair now. You can come and do a lot of things and not spend a lot of money. So that was a big change that we made while I was on the board. And I also, I think we're over 10 years now. We added an egg birthing center. So I'm fortunate where our farm is located. Some days it's a good thing and some days a bad thing. But I'm like 5 minutes from everything. That's kind of my joke. So every day, Joaquin and the guys at the farm help me bring in 2 to 3 cows, and they have their calves at the fair. And that's been a huge commitment from our employees and my family. But it's been so awesome. There's so many great companies and local farms that have invested and given sponsorships for that. And so it's just been a really fun experience. And my passion is definitely promoting agriculture. I always joke I was not put on this earth to be an accountant and do bookwork. And that's what this girl's doing. But by doing my volunteer work, that helps make the bookwork, I don't want to tolerable. Yeah, thank you. I was like, enjoyable is not the right word, because it's not. But the other thing that I got really involved in is the Fond du Lac Charity Club, and it's made up of 30 women, and we have a big charity ball every year. So it's like the one time a year that get my hair done, and get a spray tan, and get off the farm, and all fancy. Yeah, and we have this big charity ball, and we raise money, and we typically raise over $100,000 in one night. Wow. But when I first learned about the charity club, 60% of all the money they donate goes towards giving milk to kids in the community that need it. And I was like, how did I not know about a club in Fond du Lac that gives milk?
Okay.
Right. And so by making that comment, guess who got on the charity club? And I always joke whenever we introduce ourselves, I'm like the token farmer. I'm the first and only farmer so far that's ever been on the charity club.
Nice.
But it's also allowed me to meet a lot of influential people in Fond du Lac and get to know them very well and teach them about agriculture and their kids and their grandkids. Like I said, that's where my passion is. I have a little visitor center at the farm, and I love giving tours.
So, Katy, when you talk about these things, the same thing with Nicole and our other Katy here, passion has a point of diminishing return, meaning that the things that drive us and that we love so much can sometimes also be the things that put a lot of stress on us when we are serving and helping. And then sometimes our families too. And I just want to go there because I know that you three are real. And that's a part that no one talks about, right? We see the pictures and we see the impact, but you are putting so much of your heart and soul into what you're doing. How are you balancing it with taking care of yourself, family, and not to mention your day jobs? Like, be real. How do you do it?
There really can't be balance. When you think of a seesaw, right? Something gives. My home life, my kids, my job. So I have tried to, over the years, blend them together. State Fair is an example. I would bring, and Nicole brings her kids along to this day, bring my kids along to the fair. They weren't affecting my job, but so they could see what I was doing and learning from that. They could learn from me. Mm-hmm. And my daughter's birthday's in August. I missed, if she wasn't at the fair with me, I missed every single one of her birthdays. But we were okay with that, but it's just, I tried to blend it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I knew something was always going to give.
Yeah, I think it's harder when you're going through it. I used to say, I do all this stuff that I do for the fair for my kids. But when your kids get a little older, I also realize that I'm doing it what I thought was for my kids, but I'm also making that 2 weeks, a month around July hell. Like, they don't like it anymore. Yeah. Now, it's going to be a full circle. And I know they're picking up on what I'm putting down. It's not easy, and it's not always pretty. I always tell people when they're like, I just don't know how you do it all. And I said, I don't. Right. I don't. My house is clean today for you guys because I have somebody who cleans my house because I do not like cleaning. I've had to ask for some help with bookwork now because it's kind of starting to get a little bit over my head with a secondary and keeping everything straight, and I don't enjoy it. So I want to start promoting agriculture a little more and promoting our farm a little more and all the great things that I think we're doing. So by having Sarah help me with some of the bookwork, it allows me to do some of that. I can see it in my kids already. I can see how they talk about farming and how they talk about, they can have an adult with a conversation with an adult.
Right.
Like it's nothing. Like that's just, and I think they've just learned that from everything that I've done. I pushed Griffin in the stroller, like a month old at the county fair. because he wouldn't go by anybody else but me. And so there was times where I'm like, crap, where did I leave the stroller? You know,
Because he couldn't run away then.
at least I knew he was contained. But yeah,
Don't you wish you could still strap him in or something?
or have some duct tape. That's the therapist. They need some duct tape and some, but no, it's. I think all of the stuff that we are doing is helping us create or raise kids that are gonna change the industry and change the world someday.
Yeah, you're teaching them volunteerism.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, it doesn't happen anymore.
it doesn't. It doesn't. No. And Nicole, as Katie is saying that, I'm thinking of running into you at State Fair like I usually do every year. And now running into Lily, your daughter, as she's at she's 12 now. Yeah. So for the last couple of summers when I see her, so meaning when she would have been 10, 11, she's right there. She's having those conversations with fair goers. So you're living a lot of this too.
Like Katie said, for me, there is no balance either. Something always seems to give, and you have to have understanding people in your life to really support that. So husbands, family on the farm, whoever it is, I think really backs us up. I think for all of us, like has been mentioned, it's having those kids volunteer with us, right? Sure, they see the stress, they see the crazy, but I have them right alongside me. To have children that can talk to public and teach them about what we do is just that really, I think, hits home for all of us.
I'm curious for you. Like, I think there's these stages that we go through as moms and in business where you have to decide what you're going to hold on to and what you are going to let go of. I'm curious for the three of you. What is one thing that you have let go of that was really hard?
Oh man, has there been anything? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That's my struggle in life, Peggy. And I know for all of us, right? And I'm from a little different dairy, right? Our dairy is small. We milk 150 cows. We crop about 1,600 acres, but I spend my days running a trucking business, right? So it's very much, we don't have as much extra labor from a relief standpoint, right? So there are a lot of days that I'm still out milking or my duty is feeding calves, but I've been able over the last couple of years to bring on an office assistant to help me at home with the farm. Hiring extra help, same thing too. I've really tried to take a step back from my calf role on the farm. I shouldn't say take a step back. 2 nights a week. 2 nights a week, I make sure that we have help so I can just focus on the kids and maybe dinner or getting them to their activities. So that's what I've been working on to try to get better with my time management.
And was that hard for you to get to the point where, you were hiring someone? Because Nicole, I know you,
Yes.
and I know that when you talk about the farm, that you have spent a lot of time in that milking parlor. Like, that's been something that you have done amid working your professional career, amid running a trucking company, amid raising kids. So for you to get to that point, how hard was it?
I think it's about being able to trust, right?
Yeah.
Really trusting in others and having your plans prepared, your protocols, your SOPs. There's still moments when I know it's a little extra busy on the farm and I'm home for a night and I'm like, oh my gosh, do they need me? And I'll be honest, my little guy, Brody, the other night, he's like, no, Ma, they got it. You're fine. So even the kids can see that and they're helping reaffirm that, yes, we just have to trust and focus on other parts of our life.
I still really struggle to say no.
Oh,
I joke that S isn't for super mom, it's for super sucker. She cannot say no. But I'm 49, so a little older I get. I've slowed down a little bit, but it seems like if I give something up, then I feel like I got to replace it with at least 1 or 2 other things. And it's like, why do you do this to yourself? And it's hard to ask for help. And I'm a control freak, ask my family, and like you said, it's really hard to give some of those responsibilities up.
Yeah.
This is all about different seasons, right? Different seasons of life, different seasons of motherhood, different seasons of your farms and your families. And Katy, you made the comment that you wish there was a handbook. And so I just got to ask the three of you, when you think about some of the biggest challenges that you've ran into in not just the role of being a dairy farm mom and being a leader in the industry, but also, working with your family and extended family.
I could start. Just finding that separation. We're at home and it's conversation about the farm all the time. And I'm like, separation of church and state. Like, ask me tomorrow when I'm sitting back at my desk or I'm at the farm. That's the older I get, I'm really struggling with that, to try to compartmentalize. I need that at home. I want to be a wife and I want to be a mom when I'm at home. I don't want to be talking about the farm, even though it is our livelihood and our passion and all those things. For my own mental and emotional health, I cannot talk about the farm 24/7.
So you've created a boundary. Or
I
trying
try.
You've acknowledged the first step is in that acknowledgement.
Yes.
You've acknowledged that is something that you need to be at your best, is separating those conversations. How's it going with getting everyone else on?
Well, my younger son still lives at home, so it's very natural for him and my husband to have conversations at home and then start asking me about specific numbers or specific things. You know how many numbers I have floating through my head between inventory, finances, employees, millions of numbers in all different sequences. Don't ask me to spit any of them out, but I can look them up for you.
I love it when they ask you, how did you not remember that you had to pay this bill? You pay this bill every month. Yes, along with 150 other. I mean, it's so funny to me how it's just, and right away, I didn't get, the mail has been my worst nightmare with checks and invoices and stuff, but yeah, like you're supposed to remember every one of the invoices that you wrote or how much, and
Gotta write it all down, Katy.
Okay, so let's hear it. Other challenges, Katy and Nicole, that have come up for you?
I tried to segue out of that one for you.
If there was one thing that you have learned about these transitions that family farms go through, what is the one thing that you would share with someone else?
I just find that as soon as we get busy, and whether it's now this time of year is planting or harvest or whatever it might be, and as soon as we stop having our meetings and communicating,
The wheels on the bus start falling off.
well, I was going to say is the fan.
Okay, same thing.
It's amazing, and now it's becoming even more complicated because I have a son who's almost 19 and working on the farm this summer and has his opinions. JR and I we're 9 years apart, and so my kids are at much different stages in our lives than his are. So it's just a constant, I don't want to say a job, but I think it's just something you constantly have to work at, and you have to want it. And you have to remind everybody that everybody has their seat on the bus. Everybody's important to us driving that bus forward. And sometimes we need to all stay in our lanes and not get out of our seat, because that's the other time when I have problems with getting along. And my mom and dad are still here. So unfortunately or fortunately, they probably do a little bit more mediating than they want to. So it's interesting, and especially when you have in-laws coming in, I mean, you have to have compassion for those people that they're coming into something you've known your whole life and been a part of your whole life. And no matter what, it's always your family.
Yeah.
And, you can't just assume that the in-laws want to be with your family as much as you do all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably the hardest part of what I deal with I don't want to say day, but every day. And you're constantly in the middle of whether it's your husband and your brother, whether it's your brother and your son, or your son and your, I mean, it's that is really, to me, the hardest.
It is challenging. And then our kids are there throughout. Yours are more of a part of it now as decision makers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mine are just along for the ride watching, but you just like them to be in somewhat positive environments and see how you can work through challenges, right? And try to come to better decisions. And I think that's my big thing always is, how can we make this challenging process or this challenging thing going on at home on the farm just a little bit more palatable, and how can we all be respectful? Because everyone's got a different way of doing things, right? And how do you address it with each other with decency?
And Katy Katzman, you were on the side of coming in. You were the person that came in as the in-law, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, what would you say to someone else that is in those shoes?
Yeah, I just stayed firm to who I was and what I thought that I could bring to the table. I wasn't going to conform to anyone or anything telling me, it has to be this way or that way. I just wanted to keep sharing and presenting the skills that I could bring to make our farm business a success.
Yeah, and that takes an incredible amount of confidence in yourself.
And tongue biting.
And tongue biting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it never is easy.
No.
It never is easy.
That was one of my worries, right? Bringing my husband into my family situation where we are a very vocal family and his family really wasn't, right? So I always said as we moved home and got more engaged in the dairy, I always told him, like, Erin, you need to tell me when something is not right, because I don't want that to impact our marriage and our family. I will take it up with my father or, whoever I need to deal with. But most importantly, that's kind of the deal we made. Whether or not he does it all the time, I don't know. I still get caught in between all of the time, right? But that was something that was really important to me coming home.
I haven't said it to a lot of people, but I think asking for help when you need it. You know what I mean? Like, if you need to go talk to a counselor, or if you need, because you're that person in the middle all the time and you never want to make anybody mad. I hate confrontation. I hate making people upset. Go talk to somebody. Sometimes we just need a reminder. You're not Superwoman, even though you sometimes think you can be. And it's okay to ask for help if you need it or want it.
We have had such a fun conversation, but more importantly, I just sense such a realness and authenticity. And that's why it's such a privilege to have the three of you, women that I admire greatly and that are willing to show up and to say things that others out there are going to hear, relate to, connect with, and take with them. Thank you, ladies.
You just heard from Nicole Barlass, Katy Grinstead, and Katy Katzman as we celebrate the farm moms who hold it all together this Mother's Day. We're reminded that their strength often comes with sacrifice. And in part 2 of this conversation coming out tomorrow, we'll talk about the emotional load that rarely gets discussed, mom guilt, burnout, boundaries, and what it takes to be at your best in your mind and your body every single day. Keep an eye out for part 2 and be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and until next time, keep on growing, keep on learning, and up-leveling your dairy. This episode is brought to you by AHV. AHV Animal Health Visions helps empower their customers as entrepreneurs that embrace innovations in animal health. As a knowledge center, they are a leader in the field of quorum sensing innovations and advisory services for optimal animal health, with programs that focus on improving key areas such as udder health, uterine health, reproduction, and more. AHV celebrates the health and success of the dairy cow and is also proud to honor and celebrate dairy farm moms who are making a difference today and every day.